The nominee this year that we selected is an engineer. This man took over a team that was floundering, brought it together, inspired it, helped to design parts of the robot that he then put on the internet and had 150 hits on it, supporting other teams. He has brought the community in which he operates together. He has provided leadership and communication, which is in the full spirit of Woodie Flowers. It is my privilege to invite Andy Baker to come down.
Oh, hi. Hey, come on in. It's been a while.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Fun's new podcast, Spotlight, where we interview people from the FIRST community so you can be more informed and engaged. I'm Tyler Olds from FRC 2826 Wave Robotics, and, well, we're supposed to introduce Colin Fultz tonight, but he got a little bit tied up, so I'd like to introduce the man running behind the scenes, Nick Olson, also from Wave Robotics. Nick, we got a new show premiering today. How's it going, and are you ready?
It's going pretty well tonight, Tyler. Ready to kick this thing off. Let's have a little fun.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So Nick's going to be asking our guests a couple of the viewer-submitted questions later on the show, but now I'd like to welcome in our first guest at Spotlight, the legendary Andy Baker. Andy's the president of AndyMark and former mentor at FRC 45, the Technocats, winner of the Woodie Flowers Award in 2003. Hopefully you saw that video a little bit ago, and current mentor in FRC 3940 Cybertooth. Andy, is there anything I'm missing at all?
No, I've been in FIRST a long time. This will be my 18th year in FIRST. I've been a mentor on FRC teams, some FLL, a little bit of FTC, but I guess I work with FIRST every day since I'm running AndyMark and work with folks at AndyMark.
Well, and that's kind of a good segue into everything. Starting back at the beginning, Technocats was an original legacy team, but how did you originally get involved in FIRST and in robotics?
Actually, when I hired in right out of college, I was 22 or 21, and I hired in 1992 to Delco Electronics in Kokomo. And the guy sitting next to me was the designer on the Science Cats, which was the predecessor to Technocats. And I wasn't on the team, but my coworkers were. And then eventually in 98, I joined the team, and then I've been a mentor ever since 98.
And going strong still. Andy, I'm not sure if you quite remember how we met originally, but so I just want to talk a little about, because I think it's kind of a cool story, at least on my end, to really, show how much of an inspiration you really are. But when I was a student from the 2001 through 2004 seasons, and the time that I first remember you, I was on Team 93, the new Apple Corps of Appleton, Wisconsin. It was at the 2003 Midwest Regional, and I was on the drive team as a human player. And what I remember distinctly, this is one thing I just completely remember about you, was we were together in a match at that time in one of the qualification rounds, and I was running up the strategy for the team, and a lot of people knew who you were back then as well too, and I remember just thinking, we're just gonna do whatever Andy wants to do, because he's on the Technocats, and people know Technocats real well. And I remember what you said to me was, hi, I'm Andy, and I introduced myself, and he said, first thing he said, hey, you know what? Let's work together. What do you guys want to do? And to me, that floored me. I mean, that was an amazing thing, and really showed me just how humble and how amazing mentors can be in this program. Coming up to a kid like me who, to me, I'm like, wow, rockstar Andy Baker, and, having that experience was just awesome to me. So I'd like to thank you for that, because you've inspired me for many, many years as well.
Well, that's cool, Tyler. I appreciate that. I remember working with your team back when we started IRI in Kokomo. IRI, before it went to Indiana, was in Kokomo in '93 with Sean Schuff and Mike Johnson and those guys in '93. And you guys as students, you were always the last ones to leave the event. You made sure Everything was put away. All the carpet was. You didn't leave until the carpet was rolled up and put on a trailer. Every year, '93 was one of the teams that was making sure that that event went well, and that really kind of formed a bond between me and some of your mentors, and I remember seeing you there often. And I think with regard to alliances and working together, '99 was a big year of alliances because that was the first year. So a lot of us old-time mentors learned a lot from '99, and we did some things wrong that we kind of learned back then. So by 2003, when we met, we kind of knew how to work out these alliance issues and such. So if you could just come into these meetings and just listen to each other and figure out what everybody wants to do, and then eventually make a good strategy from that plan, it works pretty well. So thank you for remembering that. It's a nice story. Thank you.
Yeah, but I got to bring up one more for you, if you don't mind, too, from my childhood, rehashing a little bit. And one of those would be, and Nick, I think you got some video that if you can show it. There was a match that I will never ever forget in my senior year, which was the 2004 Midwest Regional. Do you remember that at all?
I remember that well.
Yeah. So we were in the quarterfinals, and I believe our alliance partners were 107 and Thunder Chickens, and you guys were, I remember, with 269 out of Economowalk.
Yeah.
And this match that we had where. I was driving the robot, and I just remember trying my best to stop you guys the best I could, and literally, you guys shattered all my hopes and dreams of my regional my senior year by just reaching right over our robot, planting a ball in there, that's something I just got to share with you as well too. Can you, from a first perspective, is a certain match that to you like really stands out in your career in first?
A certain match. Ooh. That was a good series of matches because that was a recording that I've watched over and over again. I think that 2003 had some good matches. I think one of the most memorable matches I was involved with as a coach was probably in 2001. We were on the alliance of it was actually 5-team alliance. 4 were playing at the same time, and we were playing against the Team Hammond-led alliance that scored the memorable 7-10 match. So I think in 2001, one alliance went first, and they scored as many points as they could, and then your alliance went second, and they posted the 710 points, which back in 2001, that was like almost like the perfect match. So we were supposed to beat this perfect match in the next match, and it was pretty futile for us to be able to do so. So that was a memorable loss. I think there's a lot of matches, but I remember that the match you're talking about in 2004 was a match that actually I didn't coach. I wasn't a field coach that year. Amy Pribolinski was a coach for 45 that year, and I thought you guys had us, but then we were able to reach over your robot and place this big ball on top of the key scoring part of the field. So that won the match for us. So that was a fun match.
Absolutely, and I'll break out and not talk about too much about childhood memories anymore, but I just had to bring that up. So, let's talk a little about AndyMark, and so
Sure.
If you can kind of walk us through. So, at the time you're a mentor in TechnoCats, how did you go from being a mentor in TechnoCats to having the idea of starting something like AndyMark?
Okay, so this that took a couple years for us to figure this out, but in 2000 and 2001, the difference between the teams with a lot of resources and the teams with very little resources was huge. So that gap now is a lot more. It's a lot less than it was back then. You had the hot team, and you had Wild Stang, and you had TechnoCats. And there was a good handful of teams that had a lot of resources, and then they would play against other teams who would admittedly just cheer when they moved. So there was a lot of differences between the highs and the low resources teams. And so we started the effort on TechnoCats to publish designs in the summer following the year, especially mechanical designs that worked for us. So there was a 2-motor shifter design, there was an omni-wheel design, and some other designs And then other mentors and other teams. I remember Andy Brockaway. I remember Paul Copioli publishing designs from their teams. And it was a movement out in FIRST to publish completed designs that worked for your team. 2001, 2002. And then 2003 showed up, and one of our designs was a shifter transmission. And then 2003 showed up, and there started to be teams that would ask us, or send me an email and said, "Hey, we like your designs, but we don't have the equipment, we don't have the machining capability to make some of those parts." I remember specifically Alan Ng from the Hawaiian, the Tika Manatee 368. They said the only machining we have here on Hawaii, on the island of Oahu, is in Pearl Harbor. And sometimes the machines are available for us to use and sometimes they're not. So if we could buy the hardware from you with these designs that we know, that would help us out. So we looked at that opportunity, a few of us on TechnoCats, and we went forward by starting to offer a few simple, unique designs that weren't standard. Omni wheels, shifter gearboxes, sprockets, those kinds of things. And I asked some friends on the team to be a part of AndyMark, or it wasn't named that yet. So I asked Mark Coors, he said yes. Asked another guy, he said no. Actually went to the school and asked the school to be the machining resource for us, and the school said, no, we don't want to do that. So we were on our own. Also, interestingly enough, I mean, I had a day job. I was working at Delphi, and I went to my boss and asked him. I said, "Hey, we want to do this. What do you think?" And he said, "That's fine with me. You got to get your job done here and take care of your responsibilities here. You have to." And then there was another manager that was in charge of like TechnoCat budgeting and funding, so I had to ask him. But my boss said, "You ask me. If you ask this other gentleman and I, if we say it's okay, then you're okay. If you ask anybody else, you're going to eventually get a no, and we're going to resist you from doing this moonlighting job that you have." Now, my boss was pretty wise, and he kind of knew that Delphi at the time was starting to downsize here domestically, so he knew this was my out to expand, I guess, just to keep my career going without having to go find another job besides Delphi.
Well, so I mean, the kind of walk into that a little bit more. So, you're going from Delphi into the AndyMark. Like, what was kind of that tipping point for you, where you're like, "Wow, I can actually do this full time"?
That was probably the hardest decision. So we started AndyMark in 2004, and we worked out of our house here in my garage and Mark's basement. So we were making parts. We had stuff like in the hallways on shelves and stuff. My dining room table is right over there. It was full of Buchanan wheels for a couple of years, and my wife was very patient with us. But eventually, it got big enough we had to move out. And so, how do you figure you can afford your salary? That was the biggest question for us. So it was all about cash flow. If the company was able to cash flow my salary, that I was able an appropriate salary which was similar to my Delphi salary, then that would justify me leaving Delphi and taking a salary from AndyMark. So now, instead of AndyMark having bills that like paid suppliers or an internet fee or those kinds of things as overhead costs, we now had to pay my salary for us to run the company and me leave Delphi. At the same time, we moved into a business office complex in Kokomo called Inventrack, so we had more overhead. But we were 3 years into the company by this time. This was the summer of 2007, and we had enough cash flow going, and it was starting to be predictable. So we took the leap, and the group of us, Mark and I, and our two wives, Mark's wife, my wife, we all said this makes sense for Andy to take a salary and leave Delphi. 1 year later, Mark did the same thing, and we justified his salary too.
So Mark was a mentor on 45 as well too, right?
Yep, and he still is now.
Yeah. So I mean, so how did that work out with Mark? How did you know that he'd be a good fit, as a business partner for you?
Well, we worked on TechnoCats since '98 together, and so we worked on a lot of projects together and with the kids, so we knew each other pretty well.
Okay. Well, let's kind of shift a little bit too and talk about the process of AndyMark and how that works and the cogs behind it. Can you start with like what's the original process of being officially associated with FIRST and developing the partnership with them? Like, how did that start out? Where not it was just not our teams contacting you. How did you actually get ingrained into FIRST itself?
Okay. Well, I mean, being FIRST mentors and knowing FIRST and also knowing the robot rules, and knowing different people that run different individual teams, we knew there was a need for hardware to be made that was unique, that teams really didn't have a place to go to find this hardware. I mean, sure, you could buy parts from McMaster-Carr, MSC, Grainger, Small Parts Incorporated, those kinds of places, but those places didn't sell gearboxes and wheels and components that were really sized the right way and designed the right way for FIRST Robotics. So we would see teams remake some of the same components over from year to year, and we decided to make those items products. For instance, aluminum sprockets are kind of big in the go-kart industry, but those are big sprockets. There's no other place that you can find small aluminum sprockets, 25 series, 35 series aluminum sprockets. And in FIRST, it's a big deal because they're lightweight and they don't need to be steel. So in the industry, there's a lot of steel sprockets. You can find them everywhere, but you can't find aluminum sprockets. So that was one of the products that we made that really fit the niche of FIRST Robotics.
So can you kind of talk about, if we take the aluminum sprocket or any other product, how does that product lifecycle process work at AndyMark? And like, what's the process of concepting a product, and how does that lead into the development and marketing areas for you?
Okay, so I guess the initial idea of a product would come about either probably one of three ways. So the first way would be our own experience on a team. Like when we were on a team, when we say, gosh, I really wish we had this gearbox or that gearbox. Maybe a multi-stage planetary or something like that. It would really be good for this year's game. And then if the same thing comes around the next year's game, well, that's a pretty consistent product. So it might come from our own ideas, or secondarily, an idea might come from another competitor within FIRST that either comes to us, or another participant, not really competitor, another participant in FIRST, mentor or student, and they might come to us and say, hey, we really need this product. Or they might come to us and say, hey, I have an idea, and I would like to maybe pitch that or sell that to you. And this isn't very frequent, but we have bought and purchased designs or ideas from different students and mentors over the years. Then the third thing would be coming from FIRST corporate or FIRST headquarters, where they say, hey, we need a kit chassis, or we need a gearbox, or we need a sensor board or something for the kit or for the rookies or whatever, and we would like for you guys to work on a pitch for that. So I'd say most of our products come about in the first case where we as experienced mentors think of things and we realize there's a need or a hole in the market that we can fill with a new product idea.
So you guys have had a lot of successful products out there. I mean, the kit chassis everybody knows about. Can you talk about like any maybe product failures you had or any hardships that AndyMark had to go through?
Yeah, gosh, there's been a few. The summer. Okay, I think it was the winter of 2008. So we were 1 year in doing AndyMark full time. It might have been early 2009. I can't remember which one of those 2 years, but we weren't very busy in the summer, so we were kind of eagerly looking for a new product to sell during our summer months. FIRST is obviously a winter timeline. That's when we're busy. So we had a friend that came along to us, and he asked us to redesign a truck bed sliding tray. It was a patented design that he worked on for a few years, and he actually paid us $5,000 to redesign his concept. So we made it. We made a design, got paid for it. That now is more manufacturable, and we liked him. We liked the design, and being kind of maybe egocentric engineers. If you make a design, obviously everyone's going to love your design, right? So if we just make this thing and put it up on a website, people are just going to come from around the world to buy this thing. Well, they didn't. Now, if you remember, 2009 was the beginning of the recent recession that we had, and this truck bed thing was for contractors and builders, and they didn't have any money to buy this type of thing. Plus, we didn't know anything about the truck accessory market. There's a two-tier commission sales distribution process that we didn't understand. It was a tough market that we didn't have any footholds in. So after about a year and about $150,000 of wasted effort in the end, we canned the whole project and got back just focusing only on FIRST. And our lesson learned there was stick to what you know, stick to the market that you know, and stick to taking care of the customers that know who you are. So that's what we've focused on since 2009, 2010.
And that's some really good advice too, to give to young entrepreneurs who are interested in, they see AndyMark and that what an inspiration that your company is to that. Companies have to learn from failure, right? And you have to be able to move on and do things correctly. Is there anything that you specifically, being an owner of a company, that you could maybe give advice to a young entrepreneur? Like, what would you say to them if they were interested in starting out?
Gosh, okay, so that one right there, stick to what you know. Stick to the not only the designs that you know how to do, but equally as important would be knowing how to sell to a certain market, knowing people in that market that can give you direct feedback, and plus you're part of that market. These are your colleagues, your friends who are in the market with you, and they're kind of rooting for you to make good product. So stick to what you know. The second thing, I kind of learned this from building robots, is it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to break things, as long as you recover quickly and make solutions that fix the mistake fast. So in FIRST Robotics, we have 6 weeks to build a robot, right? And so the earlier you break your mechanism on your FRC robot, the earlier you fix it, the earlier it becomes perfected. So, and the same thing with business. If you try something and it's not extremely good, it's kind of broken, well, keep working at it, and you're going to try to get something. You're going to eventually get something that's tried and true and isn't a failure. I'd rather release products that might not be perfect, as long as we quickly fix them, as opposed to waiting forever to release a product when we claim that we perfected it. Because if you wait too long, you're going to miss the boat.
Well, yeah, the market might not be there anymore, right?
Right.
Yeah. So no, that's fantastic advice, and maybe the kind of follow up on that. So maybe those who aren't, they maybe are the entrepreneurs of a company. Really, the question to ask is, what do they have to do to work for AndyMark?
Oh, well, we're growing. We have, I think, 21 full-time employees right now. So I guess that's a good size. I like having a good group of people who work with us. I guess for a young student, the best way to do that would be to try to apply for an internship either in the summer. We have internships in the winter and in the fall too. We're bringing on 2 new interns this coming January, and we're taking applications for interns in the summer. So that's the best way for a student to be involved. If you're out of school and you're not a student anymore, I think if you watch our jobs, if you watch our jobs website and look for openings then that pop up, or if you ask me or ask jobs at AndyMark if we have openings and be persistent about that, then we'll listen to you, and we might set up a meeting or an interview. And like I said, we're growing, so we're not sure what positions become open in the near term, but within a year or two, there might be a position that's for you that might fit for us. So yeah, I guess my advice would be that I'm
going to start doing my auto send every week for you. Then I'll keep putting an email this more and more, and change a couple words to making that look like a bot or something.
That's right. That's right.
So, can you talk about a with all the products you've been innovating over time, we talked about a couple of the maybe failures you had. Is there a product that is your favorite or something you've had the most success that you feel really passionate and you have a lot of pride for?
Gosh, I guess our first product that really got us started is our shifter technology. Our shifter, the AM shifter, which led to the super shifter, which led to the sonic shifter, and it uses really the same basic dog shifting design, and it's a little bit heavy, and but it's also very robust, and it's one of those things over the years I think for the customers who's been with us for 11 years now, we broke that little dog shifting mechanism many times, but that was early on, and recently in the last 4 or 5 years that thing has been bulletproof, and it hasn't had many failures. So that's really one of the basic foundation products for us was the shifter. It still is. I think a few other products that I really like that are pretty simple. I don't know why I like them, but we invested some money early on in a pneumatic crimping device that makes our battery cables, and it was really the purpose of making AndyMark battery cables. Those are the 6-gauge cables that plug into that you screw into your battery and they plug into your robot. There were many teams that lost matches because the students and the mentors on the teams had a hard time crimping a lug onto a 6-gauge wire. So we bought this. I think we spent, I know how much we spent. It was a lot of money. It was a few $1,000s on a really nice crimper, and it puts a really nice crimp on a lug, and it doesn't fail. It just doesn't fail. So we've sold many of those cables, and they're very reliable, and I think that's one of my favorite products. So I think it really did fix that problem. Teams who use that cable don't lose matches because the lugs don't fail anymore.
Well, I think that's an important thing going back to when you guys concept a product or create one, is that what need are you fulfilling when you're making that product,
Yeah.
right? And it's a lot of identifying, that, just because you like it doesn't mean somebody else will, but it's one of those things where you're like, what is not just good for my team, what is going to be good for all teams so we can fully market and sell something as well.
Another example was, I guess 2 seasons ago for FTC. FTC was growing, and they had a platform of hardware, and they had a motor that was, admittedly, it was a motor that burned out pretty quickly, and that was the same motor that FRC used in 2011 on mini-bots. So a lot of FRC teams got aware of this little motor that climbed the pole, and FTC teams were dealing with that same motor, and it admittedly was, as far as the power of the motor, power was fine, but it would quickly burn out. If it was under stall, it would burn out within 10 seconds or 7 seconds or something like that. So we looked around for a motor that looked about the same form factor, same output shaft, same mounting pattern, same diameter of the gearbox, but we looked for a motor that could handle a stall for much longer. So we found it, and we call it the never rest motor. So that in our opinion, that helped fix the problem of having a motor that burned out too quickly for FTC.
So we talked about some of the first products you had, and you mentioned before back in, when the recession hit, you kind of refocused and were going towards, first only products at that time. But how else is AndyMark diversified? Can you talk about maybe some other applications that AndyMark uses, or what products does AndyMark have outside of FIRST?
Well, I think especially having Mecanum wheels and Omni wheels, what that has done has led us to be, even though we're pretty small, we're a worldwide supplying company. We sell parts to, I think our last count was 59 countries. We have distribution in Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, Pakistan, and through our friends at FIRST, Israel. I think those international customers, if they're not FIRST customers, and I think not all those countries we're selling to are FIRST customers, but the folks who internationally, there's a lot of makers, there's a lot of hobbyists, and there's some in the States too, but I think we have more diversity in our customer base internationally. There's a lot of small development houses that might use some of our products, to make automated guided vehicles for their factories, or we made a robotic pallet jack for a customer in England once. We've made various things for mostly holonomic drivetrain customers in Europe and Southeast Asia. We've actually sold legitimate orders in Nigeria and Iraq. We've had customers that we've sold things to.
As opposed to illegitimate orders, right?
What?
As opposed to illegitimate orders.
Well, you know how you hear about scams from Nigeria and we do a good job of sniffing out scams. You'd be surprised in the way that people try to either use stolen credit cards or try to buy things that are just weird purchases. So we see those every day at AndyMark. It's kind of strange. Like, why is a guy in Malaysia trying to buy 300 of these brackets, sheet metal brackets, and they're using a credit card that has an address that's not being shipped. It's not the same address that the part's being shipped to. That's just weird. So anyway, there's a lot of illegitimate orders trying to be placed, but we sniff them out.
That's a good point there. So moving on to the future, you guys just released on the Cheap Delphi post a lot of different products you guys are coming out with. But what is in store for AndyMark in the future? And we can talk about the products too, but where is AndyMark going, 3-5 years down the road? What's your 10-year plan moving forward?
Gosh, you asked me that question in the pre-show prep, and it's kind of hard. So I'm torn between showing I don't want to say exactly what we're doing over the next 5 years, and we actually have a lot of soul searching to figure out how we are growing, because we're growing quickly and we don't know exactly what we're doing throughout those years. But I think first and foremost, what we want to do is support FIRST. We want to support FIRST programs, all FIRST programs, not just FRC and FTC. We're working on some things for FLL even right now. I'm not really at liberty to say, but pay attention to the championships. We might have some things to show some folks for FLL.
Which championship? Oh, that's next year. I'm sorry, next year.
Well, this year in St. Louis, and we're really committed to helping FIRST programs grow. We believe in the FIRST mission, and that's what we're doing. And one of the things we're doing slowly, and I think we're going to put more effort into this summer, is work on curriculum stuff. We've had a little bit of effort put into curriculum. We have some physics and some mechanics tutorials with some curriculum for our drive base and our gearbox, and we're working on electrical and pneumatic curriculum for FRC style robots. So that's an area that we need to do more of. I think we have a lot of requests for that. We really admire what Vex has done in that area. We admire what Project Lead the Way has done, and all kinds of other folks. But every school is slightly different. Some teachers want different things, and a lot of them have come to us and say, "Hey, I have all this FIRST robotics hardware. Can you let me give me a way to use this hardware in my classroom during the day?" And so we're working on those types of things too. So that's coming slowly, and it's a little slower than I'd like, but we're pretty busy, and it's something we need to put more effort on.
And to ask as well too, you talked about things coming in the future. Are we going to keep seeing episodes of Lunch with Andy moving forward?
Yeah, Brett and I we're just talking about that today. Brett Heininger he's one of our web guys. He works on the web with Jerry, and he also does a lot of our video and picture taking and those kinds of things. He does our video productions for assembly videos. You guys see Brett as he talks about assembling our products. And we're going to do a Lunch with Andy series. We didn't do it last year very long because I got sick, and I got pretty bad with my health. I think it was the end of the first week after the kickoff, so that stopped. We figured that you did not want to see Lunch with Andy while I was in the hospital for about 5 weeks, so that was pretty bad. So this year, I'm back and healthy and feel great. And
you look good too.
Thanks, Tyler. It was a strange year. I tell you, but my family and my my coworkers at AndyMark, everybody was very supportive. Friends, I think I was very overwhelmed with people, especially at the championships. When I went to the championships in St. Louis, people would come up to me and say, "Hey, Andy, we're rooting for you. We need you here. You don't know me, but I'm praying for you. I'm giving you good support from my end." So I said, "Well, that's really cool. Very nice to think that people are rooting for me out there. So that's nice."
Yeah, and I didn't want to say it during the show and bring it up, but we are so happy you are recovered and moving forward. And like I said before, you look great, man, and it's awesome to see. So glad
Thanks.
you're with us.
I feel strong, so I'm good.
So at this time, we'd like to take a few questions from the audience that we had. So we had a few submitted ahead of time, and then we just had a couple typed in chat as well, too. I think we got time to get to. Do you mind fielding a couple questions from the audience, Andy?
That's great. Thank you.
Nick, you got those questions, Andy?
I absolutely do, Tyler. Starting off here, we do have one question from Samuel on FRC 2869, the Regal Eagles in New York. And Samuel asks, when you founded AndyMark, how much of an initial investment was there, and how long did it take to see a positive return?
Okay. So this was the fall of 2004. My dad actually was a small town CPA up in Monticello, and he gave us a lot of advice on starting a small business. He gave Mark and I a lot of advice. And so Dad helped to set us up the business. We had to work with a bank. We had to start by, we requested a line of credit. So Mark and I both put in, I think it was $5,000. We put $5,000 into as a like, I guess, seed money to start this, and along with a bank's investment of a line of credit, we were able to buy hardware that we're able to fill orders for our first year, or at least our first few months. And then once we started getting paid, that just tends to grow. Now, at the same time, when banks do that, they want collateral. They don't care if you're a Woodie Flowers Award winner. They don't care if you're a respected. I showed them the articles.
I say you can't just bring the award to the bank and say, "Look at this."
We tried, but they said so. There's a thing they call collateral. So both Mark and I had to put up, and this is pretty typical for any small business owner. But we put up equity on our houses. We both had decent equity in our houses, and that was our collateral for in case we were to fail on our loans. That's what we had as collateral. And so that's how you start. You have a little bit, you got to have some skin in the game. You got to put some money in the pot, and then the bank needs some collateral to go after in case you go bankrupt. So that was a risk, and we never had to let them get at it, though. And
All right.
to finish that story a little bit, sorry, but sadly, my dad, who is my great advisor, and he was a CPA, he died 8 months later. So he never really saw our success after the spring of 2005. It was kind of sad. So I ask Dad a lot of questions these days, but he doesn't answer back too often.
All right, and moving on to next question here. It's from John from FRC 5511 Cortex Robotics in North Carolina. He asks, how soon should we start ordering parts, and we want to order something so something doesn't run out? How soon should they start ordering?
That's a good question. It really depends. It depends on the part. You would be surprised on some of our longtime customers. You would be surprised on the number of orders we get from different customers. Sometimes, admittedly, some customers place orders like every other day because they're going through the design process. Now, early in the season or even before the season, when you're getting ready for your kickoff, you got to buy your raw materials. You might have to buy some of your tools, and you might have to buy some robot parts that you think you're going to use. I mean, I think the administrative manual came out. I don't think the robot manual has come out yet, but I mean,
no, not yet.
Frank has talked about pool noodles, so that's something to get ready for. I think looking at first choice things, you can see some of the things that the same type of battery was available in first choice. It's the InterSys battery, so you could start thinking about batteries and battery cables and battery chargers and those kinds of things. One thing that would be good to buy ahead of time would be if you like to use T-slot style extrusions, we sell a nice set from Greg and David from the company Rev. It's Rev Extrusions. That's one thing you can buy. There's also other stuff out there that's good too. I would recommend buying polycarbonate, sheet aluminum, box tubing. We actually have a new, by the way, we have a new product, a new 2x1 6061 box tubing at our place. That's 1/16 inch wall thickness. A lot of teams like to use that. So raw materials, batteries, tools, battery chargers, get those done out of the way before kickoff, because you know you're going to use those kinds of things. As far as robot parts, obviously the more you design, the better off you're going to be selecting the parts that you buy from us or other vendors. You guys would be surprised at the number of people that just call us up and say, "Hey, I want a robot that does this. Can you help me? Can you help me design it for us?" And we're not going to do designs for them, but we're going to get them, give them a walk through a concept with them and get them a start. So, but the less planning they do, the less they know about which parts they need. So the more design you do ahead of time, the more detailed design that will help you determine which bearings, which screws, which gearboxes, which whatever parts you need, wheels, motors, whatever. So the more design you do, the better. Obviously, the earlier you order your parts from us, the more assurance that you have that we're going to have the part in stock. Now, if we do run out of stock, what we try to do, there's a couple things I want to say about that. If we run out of stock, we won't let you order it while it's out of stock. And there's a definite reason why we do that. We don't want you to have something on order for us that might take 2 to 3 weeks to get in, and during those 2 to 3 weeks, you're waiting, and the part, we're not sure sometimes when the part comes in or not. We'll do our best to tell you when we think it'll come back in stock, but in the meantime, we don't let you order it because we want you to move on with your design. Either you need to wait on that part from us, or there's some other way to make that design for your robot work. You can buy somebody else's part. We don't want that to happen, but we want you to have a robot that works. Or we're going to do our best to communicate with you when that part comes back in stock. We'll either try to put the information on the web page, or you can go into the web page and click the email me when available. So Tyler will put in his name, and he'll say, "Here's my email." So whenever that part comes back in stock, it emails him right away. Many of our parts, if they do go out of stock, they get back in stock within, sometimes it's a few days, sometimes it's a week, but a lot of times we're not sure when it's going to come back. And if you look at the website, it might tell you there. If you send us an email, sales@andymark.com, they might tell you. We will tell you when we think our best guess is when that comes back in stock.
AndyMark, fantastic customer service since 2004.
And Andy, I guess going along with that question, you guys recently did come out with some new products. Do you want to take a few moments here to go over some of the new ones you have and maybe list off a couple of your favorites that you got going on?
Sure. I guess one of the products that we came out with a few months ago was the 6-inch Dura Omni. Our 6-inch Omni wheels were about 10 years old, and we had a lot of them that we sold last year. We made a new 4-inch Dura Omni wheel last year, and I think the game last year really needed bigger wheels, so we kind of missed the mark on that one. So we've recovered from having an inferior 6-inch wheel that was an Omni wheels to have a new 6-inch Dura Omni wheel. We're happy with that new design. We've also been working on some different treads for our stealth wheels and our high grip wheels. And they're not all coming out at once, but we have a few in stock now. We have a blue tread, a blue treaded wheel. So all of our blue treaded wheels are 50A durometer. They're kind of like the Bainbots wheels. I think blue for them was also 50A durometer. And those, I'm not sure why, but I don't know how available those are from Bainbots anymore. So we are directly trying to give teams a solution that's a simple, low-cost solution for a grippy little wheel. Those are either the stealth wheels or the high grip wheel. Another type of wheel with a black tread, a stealth wheel or a high grip wheel. The black rubber tread that is 60A durometer, and so we've kind of nicknamed these wheels within AndyMark. The blue tread is like a one match wheel, at least with FIRST Robotics, and then the black tread is like a 1 day wheel. Do not be surprised if you use a 6-inch blue treaded high grip wheel that's a grippy 50A durometer wheel that might last 1 or 2 matches depending on what the game is, depending on what you're driving over. It's not intended for it to be a long, like an entire weekend wheel. You might just need it for a really high grip match or a grippy application to pull maybe a toad in or something like that, like we did last year. So
more game hands.
Well, I'm talking about last year's game.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So those are some new treads for existing wheels. Also, over the years, there's been many teams that use the blue Carbox nitrile rough top tread, and so we switched suppliers of our tread. We're actually paying a little more for that tread now, and I think it's a premium tread over our previous rough top tread. So we're switching over to blue nitrile tread. I think it's advertised from our supplier, which I'm not going to tell you who we get it from, but it comes in as a little more durable tread than the previous rough top tread that we bought. Actually, the wedge top tread that we have seems slightly more tacky too. So that's I think an improved wedge top tread. We have a single motor gearbox called the Toughbox Micro. It looks a lot like the Toughbox Mini, but from a packaging size, it's a little bit smaller. We use the same beefy, robust gears inside the gearbox, so we haven't optimized those with regard to size. They're just the same as they were, but it gives you a little bit more space savings and packaging, smaller package for the Toughbox if you use a Toughbox Micro. Our intention there is to replace the single motor Toughbox Nano with the aluminum housing with this new plastic housing Toughbox Micro. So we're going to phase out the Toughbox Nano and have more of the Toughbox Micros. They're going to be sold as a kit. They're easier to assemble. The Toughbox Nano was really hard to change the gears in and out because you had to get inside the tube to mess with it. It was kind of a pain. So I'm really happy about this Toughbox Micro. It mounts to a sheet metal face either on the side of a robot, or you put this little sheet metal piece. It's either flat or bent on the front. And then the thing that we've been teasing lately that we're really excited about is I think we came up with a new name for it today. It was the Rhino Track drive. It's a blue treaded track module. We sell one module at a time. So in order to make a drivetrain, you need 2 tracks. Kind of like you need 2 shifters on a drivetrain if you wanted to make a shifter gearbox robot. So one module includes 1 track, some side plates, this nose-looking thing. That the reason why we call it the Rhino, it looks kind of like has a nose to it, and it's all 3/16 thick aluminum, really high strength. Timing belt treads with that blue rough top material. 2 things I love about this new product is the molded pulley. We have a really hefty polycarbonate molded pulley that actually makes the whole thing affordable, because pulleys cost money when you start machining them. So we molded these 2 pulleys. We put them together and we screw them up. We screw them together and put bearings in them, and they work really nice. And then the second thing I love about this thing is for any time anybody did a track drive system, a belt drive system, because I've done these, it's always hard to do the tensioning, and it's hard in the rare cases that the belt comes out of alignment, it gets stuck into a pulley. It's really hard to get it unstuck. So we have this turnbuckle on the front side of the nose or the front part of the what we call the upper bar of the tread frame, and that turnbuckle, if you tighten it up, make the belt tighter, that's how you give yourself a lot of tension. If you loosen it and you loosen the belt, that's how you easily take the belt on and off, and you easily put it back on track in the rare case that it would be coming out. So easy adjustment, robust pulleys, nice grippy tread. We're really happy with it.
So, Andy, somebody asked in the chat, speaking about the Rhino Track, is how the heck are you going to be able to put bumpers with that?
We're not sure. We're working on that. I think just a couple big pieces of sheet metal. It's not going to be totally easy, but I think we can make some sheet metal parts that give teams the right bumper for the solution.
Yeah, I mean, it's tracks, people. Come on, you want the tracks, you'll figure out a way to put them on.
Yeah, and seriously, I don't know how many calls I've gotten over the years by. There's been guys that work on SWAT teams, firefighters, people that have asked us for many years to make a robot that can climb stairs. Like there's been people that I want to carry a fire hose up a staircase. I want to go up a front porch. I want to knock on a door and throw a walkie-talkie into a door. Stuff like that. There's a lot of people that ask us if we can make an affordable drivetrain that uses tracks that can climb stairways, go outside, go down a hill, go across a little ledge or something like that. So this is not just for FIRST. This is something that people have been asking us to do for many years. And also there's many teams in FIRST that periodically do track drivetrains. The hardest thing about getting those drivetrains done is really sourcing the belt. So we've bought many belts, and they're all the same length, all the same size, and I used over 12 years ago in 2013. We did a track drive system on the Technocats, and it was a very successful track drive. And we machined our own pulleys. We bought this belt from a company. And it was a nice robust belt. It was a company here in the Midwest, and we use the same company this time, and so we have these things in stock now. You don't have to go wait 3 weeks to source a belt. We're going to have this stuff in stock.
Yeah, Nick, I think we got one more question, right?
We absolutely do, Tyler. Our last one here comes from Electronica1 here in the Twitch chat. And he asks, would you ever consider doing a how it's made style video for some of the products you make, especially with the Mecanum wheels?
Huh. Well, I like that.
On how it's made, AndyMark and Mecanum wheels.
We've thought about doing different kind of like spoof videos or spoof TV shows of our version of what you see on TV. We've not really thought of a how it's made version, but we've thought about Undercover Boss. We thought that would be kind of funny. But keep in mind, we're a small business. I love automation.
Yeah, how would Undercover Boss work? I don't get it.
It would be funny.
That doesn't make any sense, Andy. I don't think it's
or like someone dressed up as Tim Gunn and just like a Project Runway. Being in a house of women, I have 3 daughters and a wife, and they watch a lot of Project Runway, so I tend to watch it with them, and so that's it'd be a nice spoof to have that done. Anyway, but how it's made, I'll tell you what. At AndyMark, there is no automation, even though we make robotics parts. We don't have robots building parts. We have I walked into our assembly room the other day, and there were 2 guys that were listening to like Metallica on the stereo, and they both had Mecanum wheels in their laps, assembling Mecanum wheels. They do it on a table or they do it in their lap, and they're assembled here in Kokomo. We make the parts here in Kokomo. Even the molded parts are made here in Kokomo. But the video would not be very much like how it's made. Where those are pretty awesome videos, really nice, cool automation and how to make a pizza a candy bar or a slingshot or whatever they're making. But at AndyMark, it would be how it's made would be more people based. And maybe
I say I think you got a perfect spoof thing, man. There, it's a next to technician takes the mechanic wheel and sets it in his lap as he hand turns it.
And wait, no, he's changing the radio station. But yeah, maybe that's one thing we could talk about more during the Lunch with Andy videos. Is I got to remember I need to walk around and show different people who are watching the series, show them our operations, because we have a pretty big, for us it's a pretty big pick and pack operation, like a mini Amazon.com out in our warehouse. That's what takes up most of our space, and then we have a little bit of space for assembly, a little bit of space for machining. We have some machining now that we do some of our own parts. Then we have some space that we take up for warehousing and such. We have a prototype area that we use for manual milling and such to make one-offs of things. But most of our space is warehousing and pick and pack and order fulfillment.
So, Andy, I got to ask you one more thing before we head out here tonight. And
sure.
In the opening video that we had, we showed the 2003 championship where you won the Woody Flowers Award. There, can you just kind of talk about that experience? Like, what was like on your end? Just you had no clue that this was coming, and this was back before there was. This was the year before there was regional finalist awards. So literally, there was one person who won this out of everybody. What was that experience like? Hearing your name called out of 20,000 people at Reliant Stadium in Houston, Texas.
It was extremely memorable. I tell you what. During the season. The students who were putting together the submission, they asked me to give them input on a submission for Mark Coors. So I thought that they were nominating Mark Coors, which is fine, right? So we get to Houston, and we were the number 2 seed in one of the divisions. They had divisions. We were the number 2 seed, and we actually turned down the number 1 pick. Our alliance captain turned them down, and we picked 217 Thunder Chickens and 269 Hawaiian Kids. It was a pretty awesome alliance. We had a nice robot. Thunder Chickens, with Paul Copioli leading them, they had a nice robot. And I think 359 was a really early version of what we see now from the Hawaiian Kids. And the first match in the finals, we one of our quarter 20 nuts holding holding the power 6-gauge wire onto the 120 amp breaker. One of those nuts came loose, and we lost power during the match. Well, in 2003, if you lost the first match by a lot of points, you were dead. It wasn't just wins and losses. It was a point structure and how you advanced to the next round. So once we lost that first match, we got slaughtered. We couldn't really recover from the second match, even though I think we were able to win the match in the second match, but we didn't win it by enough points to go to the next round. So we lost.
Yeah, and it sounds just like everybody imagines. It's pretty much what the quarterfinals are like this year or this past year, right? Now for FRC.
Yeah, that's right. And so we were so mad at each other. The mentors were mad at the mentors. The mechanical team was mad at the electrical team. The drivers were mad at the pit crew. It's like, we're just so mad. We had a really good robot, good alliance, and we screwed it up. Our fault. So we sit down in the bleachers at Reliant Stadium in Houston, and we're watching the finals, and our friends Wild Stang and 65 and 469 ended up winning the championship, and that was cool because we like those guys and we're friends with them. And then they go to the Woody Flowers Award, and Dr. Murphy gets up there. Dr. Murphy just turned 90 last year, by the way. He's still at it. He's still a very sharp, very well-respected gentleman. But so this was 10 years ago. So he'd have been 80 at the time. He's up there. He's reading this award, and I'm thinking, gosh, that kind of sounds like me. Huh. So he goes on. It's kind of like same. I mean, he's doing the reveal, and it's me, and I was holy crap. And so I get up. And my wife's sitting next to me. That was cool. So she was there with me. The guy that wrote the award was sitting behind me. That was DJ Fluck, and he's now an engineer in Chicago, and he was all excited because he wrote it, and he got a lot of help from a lot of people. He got Jason Morella helped him write it, gave him a quote. Joel Johnson from 175, I can't remember who else gave him some quotes, but he got a lot of people in the community to give him quotes about me that behind my back that I never imagined that he did this. So I walked down, get the award. I got a picture taken with Chuck Yeager. That was pretty awesome. Talked to Woody, talked to Dean, talked to Dr. Murphy. It was just a very memorable thing. And I get back, and the whole team is on this new high that we're like we won the whole championship. It was just so cool, and nobody was mad at each other. We totally forgot about the little lug thing on the breaker. They were actually packing up the robot, putting it in the trailer, and they said, "Andy, no, you get out of here. You take that trophy, and no, we'll take your trophy. You go to the team party. Let everybody pat you on the back. We're packing up the robot. Get out of here. Go away." And so Mary and I went, and we had fun that night. And it was a very memorable, good time. So it was a team win. I think a lot of recognition I got was something that a lot of the team people worked on with regard to releasing the designs and sharing our successes. And it was a very, very special moment for me. It changed my life. It was an impact that changed my life. So what I say now to any student who writes a Woody Flowers Award, not only are you giving them an award in itself by writing that award for them, if they win or not, if they are able to be recognized as a winner, you are changing their life. You're changing from that day forward. They're a different person because they won that award.
So where do you keep it now?
I keep the award that you win is actually a traveling award. The big
right.
bronze Mobius is an award that Mark Lawrence has up in Minnesota. So he won that award. But we have the small Mobius that all the Woody Flowers finalist award winners. I have that, and that is in my house on my shelf over there above my desk. And I guess now, this past year, Woody Flowers Award winners get blue banners. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't get a blue banner when I was a winner, but they get blue banners now. So
yeah, we got one
guys.
hanging up in our
Yes.
shop because we had a member of our team win a WFFA. So it's definitely a cool touch that FIRST has added, just to really highlight even more about the importance of amazing mentors and the impact that they have in FIRST. I mean, that's really what this program is about, right? It's volunteers and mentors coming up and inspiring others for the next generation.
Yep.
So, well, Andy, thank you so much for coming in. That's all we're going to have for today. You really give us some great insight to the inner workings of AndyMark and to yourself as well, too. And with the FRC kickoff right around the corner, you talked about a few products. Is there any one last thing you really want to talk about or let the FRC community know about?
Oh, no. I mean, it's always fun to see how this year's game plays out. I'm honestly excited about the theme of the game. I think it'll be a fun theme to watch. I think we as a community, for the most part, embraced the theme and the fact that we kind of know what the theme is going to be. This is the first time they released the game name, so that's kind of a cool thing. And I think the more we embrace it and sell it positively, the better we're going to do for recruiting and media relations and communications out to our communities, and that's going to help us change the culture, which is what we're all trying to do. So I think it's a good thing.
Which I think that has a lot to do with the first thing of bringing in the team standards now too.
Mm-hmm.
Talked about now having the blue banners for WFA, and now we're offering even more options for teams to really get that recognition. Not just in the first competition, because everybody knows each other for the most part there. I think it's how do we do something that really stands out for the community to get them interested, or to get a student who might not know anything about it. How do we get them to visualize that this is really cool and really fun?
I agree.
Well, everybody, thanks for joining us so much. All we ask that on our Spotlight and our Fun Network shows that if you like the show, to tell a friend or post about it in your favorite social media forum, promoting the show, letting other people know to help make FIRST loud and to get this community growing even more. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And if you'd like to give us feedback, feel free to send us an email at firstupdatesnow@gmail.com. Quick show note, as of right now, starting in 2016, we'll be alternating weekly between our two shows. The second will be announcing at the end of our second show as well, too, for our live airings, but they'll most likely be on Tuesdays at 8:30 Eastern moving forward. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Our next episode of Spotlight right now currently tentatively scheduled for Tuesday, January 5th, with our guest, FRC Director Frank Merritt. So we look forward to having him on. We look forward to seeing you next time on Spotlight. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.